While the world discusses big politics, Russia is quietly building a series of new floating nuclear power units that are transforming the energy sector from Chukotka to Brazil. Why is an idea that was rejected by Americans back in the 60s relevant again today? And why is it that Russia is ahead of the whole world in this field? We'll talk about this as well as a new rescue story in today's episode after a brief summary of positive news. Another batch of Dapisha robotic systems has been delivered to the troops. In the Nizhny Novgorod region, 2 boom lane vessels were launched and 2 dredgers were laid down. In Zabaikalsky Krai, development has begun at the Sherendukuy molybdenum uranium deposit. In Tolyatti, a facility for energy and petrochemical components has opened. In the Moscow region, one for logistics robots, and in Yekaterinburg, one for tank equipment components. A new grain elevator was built in Bashkaria, a 3rd dairy farm phase launched in Udmurtia, and a dairy complex established in Ivanovo region. Russian school students won 4 medals at the 36th International Biology Olympiad in the Philippines. After the recent meeting between President Vladimir Putin and the King of Malaysia, Sultan Ibrahim, our countries have begun working on an agreement for the supply of floating nuclear power plants. A little earlier, according to local media, Brazil also decided to purchase Russian floating nuclear power plants for use in the Amazon basin. Thus, the idea is being revived after more than half a century. Yes, although the world's only operating floating nuclear power unit, Akademik Lomonosov, is currently functioning in Russia's Chukotka region. The Americans were the first in this matter. It was they who, back in 1967, launched the initially military project, the floating nuclear power plant Sturgis, which was built on the basis of a transport vessel. It was towed to the canal zone, where at that time there was an acute shortage of water due to drought. The platform made it possible to reduce the load on the hydroelectric power plant and redirect the freed up water for the efficient operation of the locks. But later, non-nuclear power plants were built here on land, and the need for Soyuz disappeared, although it helped solve a local problem. After calculating all the expenses, the Americans were moved to tears and never repeated such experiments again. Like the rest of the world, the idea of floating power units was shelved until better times. 50 years later, Russia revived the idea, and now many countries are trying to follow our example. So what has changed during this time? First of all, Russia developed compact, powerful, and efficient reactors, which is why we were the ones to reopen this topic. The Akademik Lomonosov floating nuclear power plant is based on the KLT-40S unit. This is a continuation of the line of marine reactors that have proven their reliability during long-term operation as part of our nuclear icebreakers. While the American one had a capacity of only 10 megawatts, our Akademik delivers 70 megawatts. In 8 years of operation, the Americans had to reload with new fuel 5 times. Each such reload means about a week of downtime. On our Akademik, since 2019, the fuel has only been reloaded once and without stopping operations. Thus, the revival of the idea is due to the emergence of new technologies. But even despite this, building the Akademik Lomonosov was a very bold decision. It's enough to recall the wave of scathing articles in the Western press with epithets like atomic Titanic or floating Chernobyl. They warned of disaster and environmental catastrophe for us, but ignored that Steiger's nearly caused the tragedy. When the vessel was being towed for disposal in 1976, it got caught in a storm and suffered serious damage. It was only by a miracle that a disaster was avoided. The tone of the Western press changed after the Russians not only built their floating unit, but also proved its safety and efficiency during operation. Suddenly, other countries wanted to build their own versions as well. The United States of America, South Korea, Argentina, and China. Since the 1960s, the economy has shifted, and now people seek to build mobile nuclear power plants for themselves and for export. The potential market is estimated at more than 2.8 gigawatts. While Russia is the only country with an operational floating nuclear power plant, competitors are catching up. But it was us who made an unexpected and original move forward in the competitive struggle. Here's what it is. The value of the floating unit is that it can be transported by water to almost any point in the world and provide heat and electricity in places where other solutions are ineffective. Brazil is a nuclear country. We even supply nuclear fuel for its nuclear power plants. But the vast and isolated region in the Amazon basin is powered by diesel power plants, which is dirty and expensive. And there are many such places in the world, including in Russia itself. Academic Lomonosov was a pioneer. Currently, we are building 4 new floating units using the more powerful compact RITM 200S reactor with a 106 megawatt capacity. No one else has anything like this. The RITM 200 is being installed on our modern icebreakers. Project 22204 units will supply power to the mining cluster in Chukotka. Work is also underway on the export version, but the main innovation is not even in the technical solutions, but in the business model for export. The thing is, despite the relevance of floating nuclear power plants for solving local problems, they are not cheap and do not pay off quickly. At the same time, the buyer gets a nuclear facility with all the associated complexities related to having nuclear fuel on board. And waste. Most potential clients don't need a nuclear power plant itself since it's expensive and complicated. They just want its electricity. That's why we suggest selling electricity itself, not floating units. The client, for example, Brazil or Malaysia, simply signs a long-term contract with Russia. We bring our platform to their shore, launch it, and supply electricity for the entire duration of the agreement. After it ends, we move the platform to the next customer. This is the most convenient and straightforward scheme for everyone, and this is exactly what we are promoting. Yes, competitors may offer a similar option, but so far they only have 3D models and business plans. But we already have the first station, ready reactors, operational experience, a series of new units under construction, and active preparations for signing contracts with the first foreign buyers. So right now, we are truly building our floating nuclear empire and will soon present it to the whole world. We will keep you updated on the events. Next is the event announcement and the hero story.